This week, we get weird with Harry Potter, remember some vintage Netflix, and play hero with a rocket powered rodent. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 138.
There
Nailed
we
it.
go. There.
All right, well, I'm going to kick this episode off with a miraculous note. It's been so long um, since Scott Pilgrim got announced through this company called Limited Run Games. I think they're well respected for caring for their customers, providing good updates and customer service. So I thought, you know what? Scott Pilgrim's a game that hasn't seen the light of day since it was discontinued back on the old Xbox 360 arcade. I'm going to pre-order this Scott Pilgrim game. That was 2 years ago. They took my money. They gave me almost no updates. And a week ago, I got Scott Pilgrim for the Switch.
About what, a year and a half later than everybody else got their copy?
A year and 9 months, yeah, about pretty
Sure.
much. It infuriated me. I haven't played the game because I'm pissed looking at it. I also got the vinyl soundtrack, which the soundtrack's very good, but also I see red when I look at it. And then I went on Twitter and somebody else was like, I know all you guys hear is the negative bullshit, but congratulations, you packaged this vinyl and Scott Pilgrim copy very well. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you happy that they packaged your product well 2 years after you gave them your hard-earned money for it and got little to no update as to where your product was? And why is this acceptable? So I'm pretty much done. Like, I just can't see myself giving those guys more money for anything. I don't care.
You know it's really bad when people are like, hey, I might be getting my copy based off seeing the vinyl showing up on Amazon. Like, they should have an update saying, hey, this is when you should expect it. But no, people
No.
are like, oh, the vinyl's coming available publicly, so I should be getting my game soon. I would hope.
Yeah, well, and then like I've messaged them 3 times for this whole deal because like their store is based on in pre-order, in production, and in fulfillment, which this game has been in fulfillment for, or packaging or whatever they call it, for over a year and a half. It's sort of stupid. And then, I happen to find out through updates that, well, we got like one half of the vinyl in if you ordered that. And the rest we're still waiting on. Do they tell anyone else who's still waiting on it that? No, they don't, unless you ask them, which is still not a satisfying answer. And I just kind of forgot about it and just assumed that I would never see this game. And I've had, like, that's the frustrating part, is I've had the opportunity over the last 2 years to buy this thing at Best Buy any day I walked in, like for 30
Yep.
bucks, and I could
Yep.
have. But instead, I don't know. It's not like they don't make enough of a markup that you couldn't just ship the item that you had ready for me and told me,
Mhm.
hey, the other component, but they're like so cheap that,
Especially in extreme circumstance like this, you know?
yes, they're so cheap that they're just like, no, we can't possibly pay $5 more in shipping. It would ruin us.
Meanwhile, they just got purchased, by the Embracer Group or whatever. Pretty sure they got
Yeah.
bought.
Greatest acquisition, because you've purchased a super successful company with a like deep down, like to its core mentality of, we will provide our customers with the least amount of respect and service possible. So this is like a win-win. This is basically like the dentist of the video game publishing world. Everyone goes to you because they have to. They all hate you and know you're going to hurt them. And the deductible is never going to cover enough of what it should, but you still have to go there because you need your fix. That is what LG or Limited Run Games is.
Yeah, pretty much. Ever since day one, I would say they've been pretty awful at the customer service thing.
And it was understandable though when it was like two dudes, right? But it hasn't
Yeah.
been two dudes in forever.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
it's yeah. I don't know. Almost everybody that I know of that was into them and buying products from them have had a story like this where it's just like, what's going on with my order? Where's my update?
Right. Yeah,
You know?
I'm done, man. Like I'm done. Like I've never loved purchasing from them, but like I can't imagine. I'd rather just get a digital and hope to God I can preserve it on like whatever I download it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Fuck them. Just I can't do it. It's so frustrating.
yeah. Aren't they doing like Atari carts now or something for like $100 or something like that now too?
I hope not.
It's just
Probably though. I don't know. It's nuts. It's nuts. Well, that's my rant. I just wanted to get that out of the way because get that wall of
case closed.
negativity right up front. Yeah. Happy story, everybody. But I've been seeing a lot of one of your topics because YouTube and Twitter and everybody else seems to want to shove that whole Marvel Snap thing in my face. Like, never heard of it until you talked about it. And now Marvel Snap is just every advertisement I see. So,
It's just
how-
that.
how's
Wow.
that holding up?
It's pretty good. I've worn on it a little bit. The first season pass has just expired, so they reset your rankings, and there's a whole new other season pass to buy if you want the new Black Panther cards and all that.
How much does that cost?
Um, $10, I think.
Okay.
Um, it's not that essential though, really, in the grand scheme of things. It's just I don't know. The weird uh, so far the monetization of it is that which is which is probably the best value out of it. But everything else is just like variants of the cards.
Sure.
Just have different art on the cards, and it's like, well, if you don't really care about that, like, I don't know what how are you going to get money from people. Um, but what I did find was I would get up to like rank 30 to 35, and everybody's pool of cards got to a point where everybody knew what the better cards were, and it was just 50-50 basically. I
Really?
don't know how there's any way you could possibly rank up to like rank 50. It seems impossible because I mean that's a plus side too, is that it's not find the meta cards and then just dominate. At least no matter what cards you have a pretty decent chance of winning each time,
Okay.
just based on some of the locations and what abilities those locations do. That has a huge difference on just the luck that you get in the game. But yeah, I don't know. It's still fun. I'm not getting a lot of new cards as fast. So you're kind of playing the same deck, and then you do get a new card, and it's like, well, I don't know how this fits into my deck right away. It's almost like you got to wait a month and then look at your whole cards and then try and strategize like how these work together instead of
So it's
how it
not like
was right away.
incentivizing you like on a day to day basis necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and the way to unlock new cards is based on upgrading the cards that you currently have. And that's a whole other mechanism in that game that has slowed down a lot since I started. So it seems like that's slow. Just getting new cards is slow down. Period. So it's I don't know. It I still think it's a really good game. It's really a good idea, but I just don't know about the long term. Like I don't know if it's like one of those things where Magic they just come out with new cards every 3 months or whatever, and
And that's
everything
kind of the
changes.
thing with these games, right? Is like the long game, like they have to have like that long term plan and drive that
Yeah,
engagement. Because like otherwise, what are people gonna do? They're gonna download it, and never come back, and
yeah. But that's the weird part about it is you do. There's a couple cards in this game, a couple ways that you can just get random cards into your hand,
Hmm.
and they're cards that I've never seen. Like they're in the game, but they have to be, your collection level has to be so high to even have those cards. So it feels like all the cards that they are ever going to make are almost already in the game,
Really? That's not a
but
good
you just
feeling when you're only out like a month, right?
right. I mean, it might take a hell of a long time to get your collection up to that point where you can get those cards, but I don't know. It's I don't know how they're going to change the meta and whatever. I figured it would be like those games like Hearthstone where it's just like, oh, new expansions out, but I don't know. This one maybe not.
Well, hopefully they find their footing. I mean, you're not the only person since you enlightened me to it that I've heard talking about it. You're the first person that I've podcasted with that's talked about it, but I've listened to many podcasts since where people are now talking about this game. So you're not the only one. I just like I'll be curious to see what happens in a couple of months if people are still talking about it. You know, that's the test of a mobile game, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they got to stick that otherwise, or their monetization. If they don't have that, then
Yeah, yeah. What's the point? Throw ads at
yeah,
you. Go pay
yeah,
to play. $100. Play all you want all month. It'll work. Work for Final Fantasy.
yeah.
Yeah. I have been getting just kind of blown away by what I thought was a surefire dumpster fire based on everything leading up in the last 6 months with the new Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers, which has come out to, I'm not going to say great reviews, surprisingly good reviews for this open world Sonic game. I kind of can't believe it. It seems to be averaging between 7 to 8 out of 10 for most people, which, I mean, granted, Sonic Forces also did that, which anyone who's listened to this podcast for a number of years knows I'm a Sonic Forces defender. I think that was a damn enjoyable 3D Sonic game. But to hear that this is on par with that and maybe like more innovative or has more variety, um, is kind of crazy. I know Big the Cat's back, which makes me think that that can't possibly be a correct review score, but
Well, that's
maybe.
6 points right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, everyone I've heard talk about this, like, you know, so you think like I would think IGN would take the opportunity to dunk on this, and they didn't. They kind of were like, this is pretty decent. And then you're like, well,
Huh.
okay, if IGN's not going to dunk on it, somebody else will. And nobody really did. Kind of flabbergasted, to be honest. I didn't see this coming. I
So
kind of want to play it.
Sonic Forces has a 57 on Metacritic,
Really? No, that's way too low. That should be like a 70%.
and Sonic Frontiers has a 72.
Yeah.
What was the last good
I
one?
think Forces, man. I'm telling you, Forces is good. If Forces hadn't gotten lumped in with Mania at the same time, people would
Yeah,
like
I could
Forces
see
better.
it.
The thing with like,
Generations has a 70.
okay, so that's on par then. Like the thing is like people have to remember that. Oh, did we lose you? Oh, there you're back.
Nope.
I was gonna say the thing you have to remember is like people forget, like, look at great Sega games, right? Like Sonic Racing Transformed. People love that game. Some people like it better than Mario Kart. That game,
Me,
it's still, yeah, that game, it's still possible if you are not a somewhat skilled gamer to just like drive yourself off into a corner and your race is done, the game's over. And I think Sonic is like that. I think people expect incorrectly a Nintendo level of polish on a Sonic game, and you just can't. And if you go into a Sonic game or a Sonic property with that mentality where it's like, if you fight it and you try, like this is gonna be enjoyable. I think that's probably where this game is landing for people. I don't know.
yeah.
It's just my guess.
I mean, a lot of the reviews that I've read is a lot like this is a good first effort
Yeah,
toward this. So like the second one in this series
sure.
could be really great.
I'd argue that Forces was a first good effort. Like It sounds like a subset of the gameplay in this game is based largely on the forces levels, which
Okay.
I enjoy those. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm not $60 curious. I'm $30 curious. I'll buy this thing on the
Hmm.
Xbox. Um, I've heard the Switch is an abomination. Like, just doesn't. I mean, there's that's the biggest thing is like people are saying there's pop in and stuff galore even on the PS5. I can't imagine what that would do on the Switch, but
Oof. That,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll I'm very curious, surprised, and I want to pick it up. Also, speaking of PS5, I know I saw my first discless PS5 in a Target a couple weeks ago, but yesterday I saw two PS5 disc drive versions at the Target in town. So
Really? Yeah. I
I
saw online a lot today. The last 2 days, I think that they've just been kind of in stock
yeah, I
places.
looked at it
So
and I was like, what am I gonna do? Not play anything? No thanks. And
I'm gonna.
I laughed to myself like that. Chuckle to myself. The Target worker looked at me weird. I was like, what's he doing?
I think I'm gonna wait for the $1,000 bundle with VR.
Oh, should we get into that? So I think we failed to touch on it the last time. They announced the price, right? I think probably either right as we recorded or right after or before. But 550 is the asking price for the PSVR 2. They also then have confirmed in the last month or so that it will not be backwards compatible inexplicably. I cannot fathom the reason for it not being compatible with PS4 VR titles. It just that makes no sense. And it still has a cord, and they've announced nearly no games for it, right?
And how could you ever trust that? Like they could be like, "Yeah, we've
Yeah.
made a Horizon game." It's like, yeah, Sony has always put out a few games at launch of these type
Yes.
of things, and they've never done it again.
Yeah. Here's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the PSVR 2 version of Super Hot. You're gonna get the PSVR version 2 of Tetris Effects. You're
Yep.
gonna get the port of fucking Beat Saber. Who
Yep.
who in their right mind is gonna pay even with the price hike, the Meta Quest 2, and there's a pro model now, I'm aware. The Meta Quest 2 is a better experience and it's less money. And there's no cord.
Yeah. And you can hook it up if you want to play the PC games too,
I
right?
mean, is it just Sony being like, hey, we've got it and Xbox don't? Because I don't trust Sony to market it
They
or support it.
the thing with the whole VR thing in general, like that first one came out and it bombed. They had to like it was like half price. I think I
Yeah.
bought it for what, $150 or something like that.
Yeah,
I
and I
had all
got the
the
bundle with two games for like 280 with the
yeah,
Move controllers.
yeah. So how they have to know how many people paid full price for that thing.
Yep.
And then you take that number and say, well, even less people are going to spend 550 on the new one.
So then you get all these people who are like super invested in the PSVR. They've had to order their little dongle dude dicker to hook it in their PS5. And now you're telling me that you're going to make them change out their headsets in that stupid HDMI box if they want to play their PSVR games on their PS5? Like, is that really your solution? Like, you couldn't have just patched the functionality in to run it on
Yeah,
like more advanced hardware?
it's wild.
I don't get it. And then like the more I learn about the MetaQuest too, and like that side loader app and stuff, or the side quest app, and it's just like, well, I can get into developer mode. I can link my Steam games to it.
Yep.
I can get homebrew games like for no cost. Like, what are we doing with the PSVR 2? Like, who's wanting it? And the fact like they haven't even come out and been like, we're getting a port, the first console port of Half-Life Alex. Like that would be all right. Some people are gonna buy this now,
Yep.
but they haven't. Like they're like, we're gonna give you a Horizon game. Okay, cool. You gave me an on rails first person VR experience. You did that last time too, and like,
Yep.
what's there to show for it?
Yeah, I do. I'm surprised that they actually did this. in the first place. I thought for sure
Yeah.
they weren't going to make another VR, and then they like doubled down and did it even worse. So it's like I don't.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I just don't get it. I just really can't get over the gap in backwards compatibility. Especially after making such a big stink about how the PS5 was backwards compatible with the 4.
Yeah,
Like
like I understand that the tracking methods are different, but you could still build in the extra tracking
right.
into the new system and still be fine. You know,
Offer developers the ability to patch those games, right? So
like
they can at
maybe you,
least resell them without major updates to the PS5.
yeah, you still might need the camera and your move controllers and all that dumb shit, but at least you don't have to have a whole other headset for that shit.
Right. Yeah. I just I'm sorry. Like I don't know who's gonna buy into that. I think too many people, even us, like fans of the PSVR, like I can't imagine
Mm,
if it fell in my lap, maybe, but not for over $100. Like there's just no way. It's just dumb.
no, I just can't imagine the well. And how many games? How many developers are going to be like, "Oh, we got to get it on PlayStation,"
Right.
when you know the install base is not going to be great
No.
at that price.
I even wonder like how much development goes on for like the Quest because I still feel like it's that like pool of 10% of the games that like just continue to generate revenue over and over
Yeah,
again for like new and recurring users, and there's not much new. There's not much to get excited about. Nobody's talking about the hot new Quest game, you know what I mean?
uh, I saw this thing that actually was like, I don't know why, but it wanted me to get into the PC VR stuff.
Okay.
You're aware of like VR chat.
Horn. Okay. Yep.
Um, there is this group of people that have accurately replicated uh, some Kmart's
Do we do we need to
down
relive the
to
Kmart experience?
like the inches. Like they have departments and everything, and
Why?
they are spending their time role playing as Kmart employees in this Kmart, and they're putting things on sale. They're generating flyers for what's on sale in their Kmart.
Is someone being the cashier who like annoys you with idle chit chat, checks slower than anybody you've ever met, and
Have
then
you
tells you
have you
how their generic batteries aren't that cheap because you can go to the dollar store? Because if not, I don't know if this is true to life.
it that just it blew me away that there's people that are wasting their life like that.
That is pretty shocking. Do
But I
people
want to
come in
do it
as
too.
shoppers then too? Like people
Yeah,
role play as shoppers?
yeah.
Oh my god. Here's the role playing as a shopper. Walk into a Kmart, ask an employee exactly what you're looking for. They'll tell you they don't have it, and then you leave. That's how
Yep.
that's how Kmart worked. Oh gosh, that's kind of amazing though.
Yeah.
And this is in just like a game, or this is like in the metaverse.
It's kind of like a metaverse. I don't know. I honestly
Wow.
don't know how all that stuff works, but I'll send it to you. It's wild. They have like three. I think it's like three Kmart's, and they're adding another one. This fourth location coming.
Wow, that's kind of amazing. I like it. Uh, did you did you see that Netflix news with Gears of War is like apparently getting like money thrown at it for a quote unquote live action film and then a adult animated series?
Yeah.
Does anyone care about Gears of War anymore?
I mean, you could do that original story. I guess in a movie would not be bad.
So you're gonna have linebackers lobbing grenades
Hmm,
over concrete medians. Is that the story?
pretty much.
Because
I mean,
wasn't
there's
that
some
Gears of
extra
War
stuff,
pretty
but
much? Was like it's the defensive line of whatever pro football team, but now they're your neighborhood militia, or is it only in Judgment? Maybe I'm getting confused.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never played too much of them to begin with, but
What? Really?
yeah. I think the first two I played.
I'm a big fan of all the 360 ones as popcorn games. Like I put them in and I beat them all in one sitting. So
Yeah. I never got into the horde stuff that everybody else did.
yeah, same here. I liked that it was a big dumb action fest, and then I was over it. And my biggest problem with those games is like you have to unlearn how to play every other game that you're used to get into a Gears game because they control so weird.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting though for them to like glom onto that because I feel like the reach of that IP has kind of peaked maybe 10 years ago, even.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking that Halo's done, I think Gears is even more done,
yeah,
maybe.
Gears
But
is forgotten as far as I'm concerned. 5 was pretty much a flop, right? I mean, nobody really got into that.
yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah. Maybe we're the wrong audience, though.
Could be.
Maybe. We'll have to see if they frag some lambents. What they're called? I forget.
Yeah, Netflix just it's like anything gaming related. They're like, let's do this. Everybody gets an anime of it.
Yeah. Yeah, meanwhile, they announced that, like, oh, we're changing actors for The Witcher and doing a season 4. It's like, no, just end it.
Yeah.
Like, he is The Witcher. Like, I can't imagine anybody else playing him.
Yeah.
So either wrap it up or have him come back in like 3 years after he's done playing Superman. Because spoiler alert, the DC universe isn't going to happen. He's going to be out on his ass pretty soon. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's not like they were making those seasons real quick anyway, you know?
No. Yeah. I mean, 4 would have been, as far as I'm concerned, 4 years out anyway, or at least three and
Yeah.
a half. So who cares? Whatever. You've been reading some comics, is that right?
Oh my. So yeah, I guess I haven't been you know, been start a new job, doing too much, adult stuff. So
How dare you?
figured I had to get in touch with my nerd side some more. We went to the library.
What?
Yeah, the library. If you forgot what those are.
Explain this to me.
So there's this place that you can, at least in ours, you can go there and you can rent cake pans.
Oh, what?
Cake pans of all different shapes, and then you can bring them back.
They
You
really
can
have
rent.
cake fans?
Yep, they have cake pans. You can check out different pieces of artwork. Just hang on
Okay.
your wall for a while, and then just bring it back.
All
There's
right.
some books. There's some books too, but
Sure.
it's mostly just cake pans covering the place.
This is sounds amazing.
Yeah. So like that was a revelation. Like next time you're like, what cake should we make? You're like, no, you go to the library, you figure out what shape cake you want.
I don't even know how that happens.
I think like my the way I like to envision it is somebody just dumped their garbage on the front porch of the
Sure.
of the library. And they're like,
Probably.
oh, there's like a whole box of cake pans. We can do something with this.
That's amazing.
Anyway, the kids were picking out some books, and I noticed that they have graphic novel sections, basically just comic books covered, to make it look like they're actual books.
Right.
So I used to love X-Men when I was a kid. So I just grabbed, one of the X-Men, the newer X-Men ones that they had there, and actually ended up enjoying it. There's a lot of stuff going on in X-Men nowadays where it's completely different than we were a kid and what we know. So I kind of got into that and kind of wanted more of that. Found out Marvel Unlimited is like their digital ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, they have a deal where if you pay for the whole year, it's like half off. So I'm like, oh, sure, why not? So yeah, I just been kind of dipping into that, 5-10 minutes reading a comic book. And yeah, I gotta say the X-Men ones so far are pretty good.
Nice. And then there's like a whole universe, I assume, of other comics that you can check
Oh
out.
yeah, pretty much. I want to say like the Marvel stuff, like you have to wait a few months, but it all comes to it. So, comic books that were released maybe 4 months ago are all releasing on the app now.
Okay. And what does it cost you like for a year with the discount then?
I think it was $60.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much the price of one book at this
So
point. It's $5, right? I don't even know.
you're sitting on the John at the new job and reading comics on your phone, is what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Like a professional.
Yes, as you do.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone into the bathroom at work and the handicap stall door is locked and the motion sensor lights are off. So I know that that asshole has been
Yep.
sitting there for at least 10 minutes
Yep.
doing God knows what. So you're
I,
not
I've been
alone.
I've been in there too when that
Yeah, I've done
happens.
it too. But
Yep. No, I'm excited for if the movies, which they probably won't, X-Men is probably coming to the movies.
because Sony still has a stranglehold in that, or did they finally
I don't I
give
I
it
don't think they
back?
own that.
Or was it no? It was Fox had the exclusive
Yep.
rights, right? Yeah.
Which they own Fox now, so they should be able to do that. Um, I guess Wolverine is going to be in the new Deadpool.
Right.
That was the big thing.
But then I'd assume he's done, right? Because like he'd already kind of Hugh Jackman was already kind of like the Wolverine is it,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Wolverine or whatever it was. But
yeah.
yeah,
I'm surprised that they came back for it, but
that whole thing is due for a complete reboot, right? Like everybody, like
yeah.
Professor Xavier, all of it. Like it could be, and I guess they kind of did that like weird one a couple years ago. What was that one called? Where they're like in the insane asylum, and I
Oh
forget.
yeah, New Mutants. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't do real well, but
Mm.
like I could see that being redone a lot grittier because I feel like they always went kind of, I don't know, a little bit too cheery with the tone of those X Men. I mean, X2 I think is the pinnacle of those, but
Yep.
none of them have been great.
Yeah. So like the new books, I mean, it's probably been 5 years now or something. It seems like that. It's all based on like this whole nation that they've established as mutants.
Okay,
So they have their own mutant nation, and
all the Kardashians with their giant asses and
yep,
weird
that's their
waistlines.
superpower.
Yeah,
Yep.
defending the Pete Davidsons of the world.
Oh, no, we're all fucked.
Accept it. Accept it.
uh, so we'll see. I think it'd be cool if the movies went into that direction, maybe just to
Yeah,
surprise some people. But I don't know.
yeah, it would be cool
Like,
because I feel like the movies have kind of just stuck in what like most normies would have known, which was like that animated series in the '90s, and
mhm.
they
Which
got
that's
too
coming
far.
back now too, right?
Is it
I think
really?
there's a Disney Plus show coming that's like X-Men 92 or something like that. That
No
they're
shit.
yeah.
Huh. It'll be more woke, and everyone's gonna be a transgender version of themselves. And
Who knows? Yeah.
yeah, I've been watching that Winchester's prequel show, and it's like woke as fuck right off the bat. Like,
Wait, there's a new show.
yeah. So Jensen Ackles, who played Dean,
Yeah.
he rebooted it and like the pitch pilot with his wife to CW. So they're 5 episodes into the new pilot or prequel series. I guess CW got bought, so technically they've capped the first season at 13 episodes, and there's no pickup for season 2 or the
Hmm.
Walker prequel apparently. But so it's all up in the air. But yeah, it's like right away there's like this bisexual Navy vet character, and like I don't know. It's fine. I don't care, but
How, like, what is the prequel? Because I mean,
it's when
that's
dad
the
met
whole point of
mom.
the story, right?
Yeah, it's when
Oh,
dad
okay.
met mom. I've been getting pissed off at it. As a diehard, like I don't know how far you guys got, but like with Sam and Dean, like the introduction of demons, like they knew about demons, but demons were like you're dead. So the introduction of demons came in like after a few seasons of Supernatural, and like the boys shit their pants. Like there was no defense. Like you're gonna die. And like episode one of this prequel, a demon is taken on with zero issue, and I just was like, that's bullshit. Like that's bullshit. My wife's like, well, they didn't say that their mom and dad didn't teach them about demons, or that. I'm like, shut up. Like this, no, this ruins the show for me. So I don't know.
Oh,
It's good. It hits all the tones of Supernatural. I could take it or leave it though. I mean, I've seen 16 seasons of Supernatural, so
mhm.
it's fine.
I think we're in the middle of season 5 right now. Still
Okay.
making it through. So
Ooh, you're on the heels of the Angel and Demon Wars.
there's a lot of angels and
You're in
demons.
for
So.
a rough spot. Ugh. It's gonna be bad for 2 to 3 seasons. So if
Great.
you can stomach it through that, you'll probably come out the other end happy. But it isn't good because five is where the show should have ended, and six is where they tried to continue it after the showrunner left. So
Okay.
it's
Huh.
not great. Still a great show though. But
Yep.
took us down the rabbit hole. I don't know how we got here. What about Super Pets? Supernatural, Super Pets.
Oh man. What do I say about this? So it's uh the kids wanted to download this because it was on Game Pass.
Okay.
Uh so they did, and they booted it up. The first screen that comes up is like OG games, which if you know anything about kids games, that is the worst logo to see. Those are all the Paw Patrol games. Those are
Oh no.
all, it's just like all of that garbage.
Is it the Paw Patrol game?
No, so it's a
It's in the
Super
universe
Pets.
though, right?
No, it's Super
Oh,
Pets
the
is like
movie,
Superman's
DC.
dog and
Yes.
Batman's dog and all
Yep.
that shit.
Gotcha. Yep.
So this game is a shooter,
What?
um,
What?
in the vein of Afterburner or Panzer Dragoon.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's not very good, but it
Right.
blew me away that it was like, oh, that's crazy that they like, yeah, let's make a game in this direction.
I would not
And
have seen
it's,
that
I mean,
coming. You'd think it'd be like a normal fetch quest type, like
yep,
click on that person thing.
yep. No, it's you're a dog flying through the city
Totally
with a reticle in front of you, and you're just
normal
shooting robots that are flying around the city right in front of you, usually in a line,
to make it easy.
as as they do in shooters. But yeah, that's probably the most novel thing about it. After that, I was like, oh, well, it's just the same buildings, and there's no variety in this game. But that first level, it's like, oh, okay, a new idea. Well, not a new idea, but
Do you know
an old idea
did
that I
this
haven't
thing
played
get
in a
like
while.
a so do you know did it get like a physical release somewhere, or is this just like a cheap
Ooh, I bet it did.
digital
That
only?
this seems like the thing that you put on a shelf for $20
Okay.
and people buy it because their kids like the movie.
Because Christmas is coming up and grandma doesn't know better, and
Yeah,
it's probably on
but
the Switch, right?
oh yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm not sure if it's lazy to make a game like that because it's kind of an outdated, easy thing to make, or if it's just kind of like some effort that
I mean,
was
I kind
brought
of feel like
into it.
that's a step up
Yeah,
from most action like movie tie-in kids games, right?
I mean we have all the Paw Patrol games and they're just there's there's just coins laying around and you just jump around and get the coins and do a couple quick time events to help the citizens of Paw Patrol City or whatever. But
Mm,
yeah, this at least has something different. Gets old
yeah,
pretty quick. So
it's interesting though. It's kind of interesting too because I feel like that movie didn't really do that well. So it's funny that the game like came out hot on the
yeah,
heels of that. But
yeah, I didn't make it through that movie. I fell asleep halfway through it while the kids watched. It's talk about a movie that didn't seem like it's trying. Like I feel like as soon as I hear The Rock and Kevin Hart in the same movie, I feel like it's like, oh, this is just a paycheck for these guys because they're best friends and they're like, oh, we can do this together.
is that who
It's kind of
voiced
like
him?
that. Yeah, it's
Okay.
yep, those are the two main guys, and I just feel like that's kind of the Adam Sandler projects 2.0 at this
Yeah.
point, right?
Right. Jumanji. God knows what else.
Yeah,
Kevin Hart's probably going to be in the next Fast 10 or whatever it is. So
he was in that the Hobbs and Shaw one.
was he? Oh God.
Yeah, he
Am I
was
not
in.
remembering this as the
Yep,
Fast and Furious guy? Like I can't. Oh, you're right. Yep, I do recall.
yep.
Yep.
He was only in a few scenes, but it was like, yep, this is just because they're buddies.
That's right. I forgot he's out of the. Yeah, The Rock is out of Fast. He's not part of the family.
Yep, Vin Diesel
Dom. Dom
kicked
doesn't
him.
care about family.
Not when they're bigger than you and could beat you up.
Yeah. God, I can't believe there's a new trailer for one of those. So what? So games for Christmas. You're considering some new games, or
No, so I was wondering if you have anything in mind. I was trying to think of any game
to
that was
sprinkle in the
like,
kids' Christmas baskets and
yeah, or even
baskets,
ones
like
that
it's
you
easier.
wanted. Like I can't think of anything. Maybe the Sonic thing. I don't know.
I would say no. I can't think of a single game coming out yet this year that I'm excited to or want to play. Bayonetta 3 was the last one, which I bought. It's still factory sealed over 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks later. Um, no, there's not a holiday game for me this year.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I
really
can't even
buy.
think of anything coming out.
I don't have a PlayStation. I don't really buy Xbox games because they're all on Game Pass.
But if you had a PlayStation, what would it be?
I don't know. I never even played the first God of War, so I'm not
Right, and
all
that's
that
on
jazzed for.
PS4.
Yeah, nothing.
No, I don't think there's a game. I don't think there's a holiday game.
No, it's kind of wild to think about. Even like Black Friday ones, like I can't even think of anything on Black Friday that would be like,
Well, yeah, the best deals are like $20 off of like 4-year-old first party Nintendo games, but
which
sadly,
they were.
I own most of them. The only one I'd like a
Yeah,
$20 discount on is Wii Sport or Switch Sports because I refuse to pay $40 for that. I want it for like
sure.
30 or less, but
Yeah, I could see that one.
I don't even need it. Yeah, it is weird. There's nothing. I don't even know
That's
what to get my kids. Like I normally I buy my son something video game related. There's not a game I could even put in front of him. He doesn't. I mean, we talked about the Sonic Frontiers, like you said, but like I'm not buying that for anything less than half price.
yeah,
Yeah, it's weird.
it's a
No,
weird year
no
for games.
killer
I think
app.
of. Yeah,
It's bizarre. Sad,
and like,
sad times we live in. I think.
yeah, and like you said, PlayStation is available, but for what purpose at this point?
Yeah, yeah. I looked at that when I was in the store, and I stood there, and I was like, I could just buy this. But then I'm looking at the thing, thinking, well, for what purpose? Like, there's not a game to buy with it that I'm excited about. It's
Hmm.
probably going to get a revision or hopefully a price reduction and
And make
revision.
something that looks normal. That would be
Right.
nice.
Yeah. I don't need this 4 foot monstrosity. I mean, I got the Series X, which I enjoy, but I only enjoy it because it's my convenient Game Pass machine. I mean,
Yeah,
I was really satisfied with Game Pass on my PC until I realized like what a fucking bitch that thing is to play cross-platform with console gamers.
Mm.
Like you have to be
Hmm.
really careful about where you install the games, and I mean, not really careful, but it was just more tedious than I wanted.
Yep.
And actually, probably wouldn't be now that Discord is on Xbox consoles, but yeah, it's weird. Yeah, holiday season. Can't think of a killer game.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, and like you said, even the usually I get like a bunch of $30, $40 Nintendo games, but I can't think of what those would be this year that I really need or haven't picked up yet, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess maybe if Mario Golf got cheap, or I never
Yeah.
bought the Mario Tennis, but I don't know. I did see, if you haven't bought that WarioWare game, I think that's gonna hit like $30 on some of these sales for Black Friday. That's worth it.
I would do that
Definitely.
one. I do have that one already, but that would be one if you don't have, that would be a good one to pick up.
That one
That's
was like such a short game though. Like I blew through it in a couple of evenings. And,
yeah.
yeah, bizarre. Feel bad for kids. What are you gonna play? Super
Roblox.
Pets.
Yep.
Well, okay. So let's do staff picks. You know, which is sort of our homage to the rental store, the video game store, where there's the staff picks end cap. You'd put the things that you know, Bob's games, like, you know, you'd find the guy you identified with. But then we'll do like a bonus one to talk about the movie that you and I both talked about. Um, I'll kick it off, staff picks, and I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to mention, because I listened to the latest episode of R3 podcast, and Fraser called this out, and rightfully so. And I told Hodge too. We subconsciously stole their random recommendations bit. Granted, it does kind of fit in like the context of our show being like a rental store based thing, but like totally we did. So
Oh yeah.
if you guys want to hear a great podcast from our buddies Fraser and Chris over at the Ramble Record Repeat R3 podcast, and where we got the staff picks, their random recommendation segment from, go check those guys out. There, it's a great listen. And yes, we we unintentionally, subconsciously stole this bit, but you know,
There's
as I've told Hodge, you know, imitation's the most sincerest form of flattery. It was, you know, it's a good segment.
plus we're assuming that there's probably no loyalty or royalty laws in Canada.
That's a good. Oh boy, we're gonna have to get a lawyer, I think.
Yep. Call the embassy.
Yes. We'll just wait till after the midterms. We're just gonna burn to the ground. It's gonna be a lawless state. So my pick, my oh god, I almost called it the random recommendation. It's so bad. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. So, my staff pick. I want to touch on this because I read a sad article. I've talked about this on the show before. What was the very first Netflix original series?
Lilyhammer.
Lilyhammer. Yes,
Yes.
I'm like one of 5 fans of this thing. It's a mobster story about a guy going to witness protection in Lillehammer, Norway. It's where he wanted to go. We saw it in the Olympics. Looked beautiful. He goes there. It's a great 3-season mobster Sopranos / dark comedy series. I am partial to it, having studied abroad in Norway in my college years and understanding some of like the culture shock and like the subtleties of like how that society works to an American. It kind of resonated with me a lot, but all in all, I would say that show, it's a very slow burn. I fully acknowledge very slow burn, but if you get through that first season, you're hooked, and seasons 2 and 3 are great. And I'm sad to report to everybody here that for whatever reason, even though it's a Netflix original series, Netflix is shit canning it. It had a 10-year exclusivity agreement. It's gone.
What?
It's gone after November. So I understand by the time this comes out, people have very little time to binge this series. I highly encourage you to do it. I went online, looked for the Blu-rays, looked for the DVDs. Most of them are out of print, so it would cost way too much money to buy all 3 seasons. But I'm telling everyone now, Lilyhammer is great. Go watch it before it's gone. You're gonna have a limited window. Excellent show.
What in the hell are we doing if
Yeah.
Netflix stuff is leaving Netflix?
Yeah, it's a great show. It's got the mob, it's got sex, it's got violence, it's got comedy, it's got lutefisk. It's all the things you want.
Oh,
Maybe not lutefisk,
yeah, not that part.
but that's my recommendation. Go out there and get it while it's hot, because the fact that this is gonna be maybe gone in any convenient way makes me real sad.
Yeah. Man, I remember when that was a big deal when it was like, oh, we're making our own show.
Yeah.
And now you go on Netflix and you can get into some areas of Netflix that you've never been before. And then there's just like 100 different shows that are Netflix produced and you've never heard of them. And they're like season 4. It's like,
Yeah.
what in the world?
Well, and I heard they removed Hemlock Grove, which I didn't realize either, because that was like their big thing for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, why is that
Huh.
gone? I don't get it, but I don't know. I feel like this one is one that most people slept on because it was so early and it came in a time when people weren't expecting it. But it's fantastic. So get out there.
What do you think their like first big one was? Was it House of Cards, maybe?
Yeah, I feel like House of Cards is where like people took notice
Yeah.
before we started diddling people.
Well,
So
before
what's
that
your
came out.
what's your pick?
Not Kevin Spacey. I'll tell
All
you
right,
that.
heard it here first.
My pick is Arrested Development, which is, hey, there's a
Yeah.
Netflix tie into that as well.
Yeah.
Um, we started rewatching that this last week, and it's just amazing how that first season, there are so many of those episodes that are just everybody knows them, even though nobody watched that show when it came out. It bombed real hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's so many things out of those first few episodes that are just referenced all the time still.
Well, there's always money in the banana stand.
Right. Yep. No touching, just the whole dove meme where like I don't know what I was expecting. There are so many things from that movie, from that show that is still around. And if you have not seen it, obviously highly recommended. I'm sure you should be aware of it at this point.
Yeah, everyone who was in it is a celebrity in their own right, for
Yep.
sure. Is it
Yep.
the first introduction of Michael Cera?
I think it might be. That's where I'd known him from, at least. Right. It is weird, the whole arc of this show is because a lot of those people weren't all that famous,
right,
originally. And then a few of them, like Michael Cera.
Well, and Jason Bateman, like people forget, like that dude was famous in like '83.
Yeah.
And then people forgot about him, and then he became totally famous again 20 years later. So
yep. And it's funny because he's probably still the most famous one. I mean, he's still doing Ozarks and all that stuff.
Him and
Hyundai commercials.
Yeah, what's the other main guy?
Will Arnett. He's pretty big too.
And the dude from Mr. TV, I can't remember his name.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's so good. It's probably some of the best writing in a comedy show, period. Like the way they set up jokes and pay them off and keep them running and how they intertwine with each other. It's just genius.
I would have loved to have watched like the filming of that, like the cast perspective though, because like all of those seasons are shot in such a way that like it does not make sense until edited.
Yeah,
like I had to have wondered what like the staff, like what the crew cast was thinking. It's like, what is going on? It's just like this amazing like wizardry and like storytelling, but like, yeah, I'm sure they shot like vast segments of stuff like completely unattached from everything else.
Yep. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Why am I talking about bananas? Who knows? It's just, I think Seinfeld probably did it first, where they're kind of not great people. None of those guys are really great people on Seinfeld. And they kind of the same type of thing where they each have their own plot that kind of intertwines with each other a little bit, but I think this goes to a whole other level where these people are awful. Even like Jason Bateman is supposed to be the guy that you're supposed to be rooting for,
Yep.
but at the end of the series, you're like, oh man, he's just as bad as the rest of them. You know?
Yeah. So help me remember, did it get 4 seasons on the initial run? And then got
I
picked up
think
for 5 on Netflix, or was it 3 and then 4?
I think it was 3 originally, and I think they do 2 Netflix ones.
Did they? Okay, maybe they did. Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
so there was one. Season 4 is not great because it was, oh,
Pandemic shot, right? Like everything was disjointed and
well, it was, they had very bad schedules with everybody,
sure.
so it was very disjointed. Like you could tell they shot it everything so separately. Um, and season 5 kind of brought it back on track a little bit. It was pretty good, but I don't know. I don't know if he can beat that first season. That first season
Yeah.
is where it's at.
Yeah, it's a wild show. Like it definitely has its own tone. It's a show that like I think found its audience after it was off the air for sure.
Oh
As a
yeah,
lot of great shows do. So
yeah. I remember watching it was on, but my parents did not understand it one bit, so I kind of lost the TV at that spot. Couldn't watch it at that point.
good.
But yeah,
It's a good
it,
recommendation.
it is. But I mean, it's it's one that somewhere along the path of life you've probably come across this and be like, is this for me or not? But
Well, I think it's a tough show though too, because if you come in like mid sea, like it almost needs to be watched from the beginning. Like
yeah,
you're not going to get into it with like a random episode, you know. So I think a lot of people probably catch like a episode or a clip, and they're just like, I don't get it. Like you got to watch it start to finish. So
yeah. There's so many jokes that are lasting the whole season.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so funny because it's the complete opposite of my last recommendation, which was Joe Pera, which is just like wholesome comedy. Just like, this is just the most cynical shit you can find.
yeah. That's true. No, it's a great show though. It's a good
Hmm.
pick. Well, should we? So we're gonna touch on our combined staff pick, I guess, of sorts.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna circle back to it at the end, maybe I think, depending on how this gets edited, to talk about spoilers. But we both wanted to talk about Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Roku exclusive, free to watch if you have a Roku device. This is the true to life happenings of the life of Weird Al Yankovic,
Hmm.
the famed accordion player and musician. It shows his humble beginnings all the way to his untimely death, and
And that's
it's a
what
tear
that's all you need to know if you have not seen it. So if you've not seen it, just use that information and go watch it.
Yes, it's free on Roku, and I saw somebody messaging him on social media that it wasn't available in his country, and Weird Al's own suggestion was to get a VPN or torrent it. So you've heard it here first
Yep.
from Al himself. Just watch the damn thing, and
Yep. That was a
well,
pretty genius tweet.
yeah, we'll uh, we'll circle back at the end of the show maybe and gonna share some thoughts. But I think it's time for the weekend rental.
Yeah.
So weekend rental, if you're unfamiliar with the podcast, is a segment where we pick a game, a retro game for any given system, and we'll sink some time into it, really try to get a feel for it and share our thoughts. And the game this go around is the Konami Powerhouse Rocket Knight Adventures on the good old Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on where you're from. This is a mascot action platformer hack and slash that for a lot of years I feel like went under the radar. It has since become known well within the collecting circles, but still I don't think really gets the critical like this isn't held in the pedigree that like Contra or
Yeah.
And it every bit deserves it. And I don't understand why it hasn't reached that. Particularly this one. There's a sequel.
I think I know why, but
Oh, okay.
I think it's, because it started on Sega. I think that's
You
probably
think
the
so? You think
difference.
Sega snobs or
Yep.
Super Nintendo
They
snobs?
yep.
Yeah. So
They
you
got their
play.
Sparkster, but they were not happy about
I mean,
not getting the first one.
yeah. And this thing is beautiful, right? Like you play as a possum who's also a knight, who also has a rocket, hence the Rocket Knight Adventure. And you're fighting evil pigs and
Kidnapped your girlfriend, I guess?
kidnapped your girl. Like I can't explain to you as the audience, Andy will know what I'm talking about, like how charming and polished this non IP, like there's no IP tied to this. They like invented this entire world and gave it so much love and crafted this character in this world. He just comes off as like a superhero. It's like you're tuning into like an old Buck Rogers show. Great title screen, fantastic cutscenes to lead into it, top notch. I'm gonna say best soundtrack on the Genesis. I own the vinyl. I love this.
Yep, it's
It
really
it
good.
it's perfection. It hits all the notes that you want out of the Genesis sound chip. And I've said this before on some of these other games. This is one of those games that is it's Nintendo like in its design. It
Mhm.
it tells you everything you need to know about how to play the game, how to use your power ups, and how to succeed without telling you how to do it. It's the
Yep,
most intuitive, ingenious design. It's Miyamoto like in that sense. It's fantastic.
yep. I think, I'm sure when I first played this, I got to that one wall at the beginning in that first
Right.
level, and it
Yep.
was like, "How do you get above this?" You know? And, you just do some experimenting and like, "Oh, you can boost yourself, you know, directionally. That's amazing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It and then like the wall bounce and like the foreground and the background and there's just like so many little
Yeah.
subtle hints that it gives you throughout the game. And it's really it's funny too because it's a Genesis game, but it only uses two of the three primary buttons. So like they could have done more with the controls, but I think the simplicity is the beauty of it, right? Like they went for an A B Mario setup, and that's all you really need. You've got a ranged attack, which also acts as like a defense against some projectiles and attacks. You've got a rocket boost that propels you over obstacles and lets you traverse things a little faster, reach higher to reach platforms. And you've got this gorgeous world with screen filling bosses. And I think that's something a lot of people overlook is like on the Genesis, you didn't get that sort of like that was arcade stuff when we were kids. Like you went to an SNK machine or you went to an arcade machine to get a boss that was the size of your screen. And this game does it three times a level, almost punishingly consistently with how
Oh,
it
yeah.
pulls off bosses.
Yep. And, I think they do a good balance of there's something to be said about easy enemies filling uh, a, um, a level.
Yeah.
A lot of these pigs are just there. They take one hit. There's nothing to them. And usually that would be like, oh, that's not much of a challenge. But I think that adds to building up once you do get to a boss or something like this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh shit, I'm actually losing health here. You know, there's an actual pattern that I have to learn. I think that it, meanwhile in the level, it's just cruising around. It's just, you know, blasting your jetpack, swiping at these guys, and they just die immediately. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like it's a nice thing. I mean, my only real complaint with the gameplay at all is just how slippery the tail traversal stuff is. Like vines and branches and stuff like that is like super
Yeah,
touchy.
yeah,
You get used to it pretty quickly, but like the first couple of times you're constantly sliding off stuff. But
yep.
like what a great character like feature too, where you can do your typical platforming, but then you got this like character because he's a possum can also grab onto things with his tail. Um, there's some there's some amazing stuff graphically. Like they do foreground and background through like waterfall segments where you're like
Yeah, that
jumping in
level
and
is
out.
amazing.
Yeah, think about that. Like that had to be, if it wasn't pre Super Mario World, it was close, right?
Yep.
For sure, the first time I've seen that on the Genesis, you get to that third stage, is it where there's the, it's not lava, it must be some kind of chemical, but it's constantly ebbing and flowing, and like when it comes up you can see your character's reflection in it to find like platforms
Hmm.
behind vines, so it's like almost you're platforming within a platformer.
Yeah,
um
you're looking at the
the
rising.
reflection.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's that's cool.
it's I've never seen another game do that on the Genesis, and it looks so badass, and it's one kill, like one hit, one kill.
Yep.
The game is pretty good about putting I will say levels are long. Each level is like 3 segments, but almost every level at midway to entry point has a one up refill in a
Hmm.
place where if you're going to die, you're going to be able to pick it up over and over again. So it's kind of forgiving there. But yeah, just so many amazing ideas, and it really pushes the hardware and level design in ways that you won't see anywhere else. Even today, I mean, some indie developers aren't doing like retro inspired throwbacks as good as this.
Well, let me tell you. Well, we'll get into that later.
You're
But
not going to talk about the one on the 360, are you?
yes, I played that
Oh
one this
no,
week too. So,
oh no. So
but
can I
we can
ask you how
talk.
far did you progress in this game?
I did beat it. I uh,
Okay,
I saved or did save stating the last 3 levels, I'd say.
okay.
Um, the last boss, that's a tough one to get the randomness down on that. But
So I recall beating this as a kid at my cousin's house. I stayed there for like a week, but I could not for the life of me get past that fish boss, where the pig jumps out. Like
oh yeah,
I don't know where that falls in the game, but like I just was like I could not. I mean, I know that
really,
with patience I probably could have done it, but I just could not get past him.
really, that was one that I was like, oh, I nailed that one.
Really?
Yeah, I
I kept
just
falling into the
avoiding.
lava.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
is the key there not to go for the bananas that he spits up and just like preserve your hits or what?
so that that part was you just stay on the right side. That's what I was doing anyway. And it seemed like there was less fireballs over there, maybe.
Okay.
Um and then when he's doing the platforms down below, you're just trying to stay on the top one as much as you could. Sometimes you
Okay.
couldn't do that, but
Right.
I,
I
I
tried.
probably just got lucky.
I gave it a
I got
couple
lucky on that one, I
continues.
think.
Nice. So how many stages are there in total? Beyond, because it's like, is that
Oh,
stage three boss, four
7,
boss?
I think.
Holy, so I only got through like half on this
I,
playthrough.
hmm. I want to say it's 7. It's a short game though. Like it's
Right.
2 hours, 2.5 hours, I would say. So it's not too bad that way. Did you get to the airship one?
Not in this playthrough. I've been there, but not in this
Okay,
playthrough. Yeah.
yeah, that one's a really cool level too. The airship, I really like that one quite a bit.
So I got
Um,
to, fun fact, I got to like stage three, the start of stage three, and my asshole cat ran out of the back room and knocked the. I was playing it on my hacked PlayStation Classic, and he knocked the USB C cord out of the wall and
oh no,
had to restart. But I will say that's a testament to this game is like the old school design. Like once you're in the zone, like what took me 40 minutes to get through
hmm,
the first time took me 20 minutes the second go around. And I didn't die at all. So that's cool.
yeah. There's a couple things that I would change about this game. When you said that they didn't use the third button, that would be pretty simple to just have a charge, a full charge button on that
Right.
button. That would be really nice.
Yeah. To just go.
Um,
Right.
yeah. The having your thing charged up and then taking one hit and it's immediately gone. That sucks.
Yep.
I get that's part of the difficulty challenge, the risk reward of holding a charge like that, but that sucks.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it could have benefited from like a power up or two, maybe, but it just
Yeah.
has so much in the way of game design and level design that you almost forget about that being a thing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I just love the. I know we talked about like how well designed it is, but like how much passion they put into the character and how much light, like how much they put into him from like he doesn't talk but like he's got the whole idle animation where he like crosses his arms. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fucking badass. And then there's that whole segment randomly in the first level where he walks in, there's a giant box present, and then he's like, oh, what's this? And
Yeah.
the present like enemy jumps out. He does
Pigs.
that like cute little shriek thing, and I don't know, man. Like it, they just put so much detail into building this character out and like making you understand who he was,
Yeah.
without actually putting dialogue or a backstory. That it's just kind of
And
amazingly
having
charming.
that other rodent too,
Yes,
being his rival. It's like you just hate each other. They hate each other. They're rivals. You don't know why. You don't know anything about them.
and his weirdly large-chested like possum girlfriend though. Like I was like, she's very well endowed for a possum. I guess pigs are always assholes. That's the lesson, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I do like that they throw in a couple shooter levels.
Yes,
Those are always fun.
especially right off the bat. First level's got one. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird. Like there's no reason we shouldn't still be like fawning over this series. Like there's no reason it shouldn't have gotten a Streets of Rage 4 treatment for current.
Hmm.
But like Sparkster came out. It got completely different. The sequel to this, for anyone who doesn't know, came out on the Genesis, which I think is considered canon as the direct sequel to this one.
Yep.
And then it also got, as they did back in the day, a port to the Super Nintendo that was completely different, or at least
Hmm.
largely different and considered inferior. So weird. And then like nothing happened with the franchise forever until the version that I don't know why Andy played on the 360, but this was kind of during the big retro revival. It was one of the first games to kind of get like the retouch up treatment, and it didn't go well, right?
Yeah. So this was Xbox Live Arcade, just called Rocket Knight, and man, I don't know what they did, but they screwed up the 3D art on here. The guy just looks so dopey. He does not look cool at all in this game. It's just a bummer. Like that's right off the bat, you're just like, I don't want to be this guy, you know. Um, and from there, it's just kind of like a slow 3D platformer or 2D, 2.5D platformer where you're just collecting a lot of gems. And I don't know. So what they do is they use a lot of the gems to point you in the directions to, blast yourself off to.
To
That
like
just
lead to secrets and stuff, or what?
Yeah, yeah, but it's not, I don't know. It's not rewarding because it's not really a secret then, you know what I mean? Because you should just be getting those gems anyway to end up getting the secret. Like it's not a secret if they're just saying like, hey, go here. But it is kind of a collectathon because at the end of the level they tell you how many gems you got out of how many possible, and all the hearts and extra lives and stuff like that. The beginning of the game, you're fighting wolves for some reason, like pirate wolves. I have no idea why.
Okay.
They're ravaging the town, I think. So you just take off. You're a farmer, by the way.
Oh, as all
You're
knights
just
are.
you're yeah, you're just out tending to your crops, and the city gets ravaged. So you put on your rocket powered knight uh suit, and then go fight all these wolves. And eventually, I think the pig. I did get to some pig stuff, but I didn't go any farther there. But they do change up the control a little bit, so you have a meter that is full all the time,
Okay.
and you can just press a button to use some of the fuel out of that gauge to.
Does it recharge?
Yep.
Okay.
So it slowly recharges. So it kind of makes it easier. Like some of the first bosses, it's just like you're just, I don't know, you're
So
just
instead of charging,
spamming
you're
it.
just depleting all the time.
Yeah, you're just spamming it. So it's a little easy on that front, but I don't know. It's not a terrible game. They just could have made it look a little bit better. The music isn't all that great,
Yeah. I
but
uh I was pretty excited when I heard that was happening, and then I started hearing about like kind of how it worked out. I was like less enthused, and I just never
mm,
got around to it. So,
it was on like Games for Gold like last year or something. That's
oh
how
really?
I ended up
I
in my library, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should try check that out.
should see if I downloaded it. I feel like I didn't because I feel like I'd remember that, but
Yeah.
interesting. Well, bad spiritual sequel aside, if we're talking just Rocket Knight Adventure for the Genesis and Mega Drive. What's your verdict on it on our buy rent burn scale?
I think this is a must-have Genesis game. It's like one of the top ones that you need to have if you're going to have any sort of Genesis collection. This needs to belong. It's a bummer. It's kind of short. Some of it's maybe a little easy, but overall, I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, 100% with you. And in fact, as somebody who's gone through his Genesis collection and pulled virtually all of it out, I'm looking at my complete inbox Genesis collection right now, and on my shelf, don't judge me. Sonic Spinball, Toe Jam and
Oh, I
Earl,
love it.
Panic on Funkatron,
Hmm.
Rocket Knight Adventure, Sonic 3, Biohazard Battle, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Those are the only games I have.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a loose cart, Streets of Rage, and Sonic 2 somewhere in there, but yeah, I could not.
I was just gonna
I
say,
could,
well, Sonic 2 is pretty rare, so I don't
yeah,
blame you for not
totally.
having that one. But
Yeah, I could not bring myself to part from this one, especially since I had a complete. God damn it, it's just a great game. It's probably top 10 16-bit games, like between Super Nintendo and Genesis. Like it's just the whole package, like the amount of detail and care and like that went into every facet of this game. If you don't love it, there's something wrong with you. Like if you're not
yep.
smiling ear to ear while you're playing this, may God have mercy on your soul because like you said, it's a must own. It's so good.
I think they could. There's a lot of potential to make a new one too. I mean,
Yes.
oh, Metroidvania with this thing would be really good. Um,
Yeah,
or even like a Shovel Knight, very focused on traversal with, the tools that he has
for sure.
would be really good.
Yeah. Boy, yeah, there is some Shovel Knightage inspiration in this game.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a great one. I think when we used to do the Byron burn with the three games. I know we probably touched on this one at some point, but
Hmm.
having the time to just like really focus on this and sink some time into it, like, yeah, phenomenal,
Yeah. Yep. It's fun.
phenomenal game. Well, let's get into spoiler territory. So weird, the Al Yankovic story. You loved it.
100% true story.
100% true. True life of the man, the myth, the legend. As played by Daniel Radcliffe for most of the film.
So
Um,
I'll say right off the bat, I think this movie works amazingly well if you think that coming in,
yes.
like I did.
Yep.
I saw the trailer and I saw some things like I don't know if Madonna was really with him or whatever, but that was kind of weird. But I'm like, okay, it's just going to be another musical biopic or something,
Yep.
and it just everything that goes the opposite direction of that just makes it so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, and Annie and I were talking a little bit before the show, and I think if you haven't seen this movie and you haven't seen Weird Al's original movie that almost killed his career, which was UHF back in like 89, I would suggest you watch UHF because you're going to have a great idea of the comedic sensibilities and what exactly you're in for with this movie, because it's very in line comedically, and just as off the rails, but it's like a more focused version. It's all tongue in cheek, it's all nonsense. Well, almost all, and it's made even better so by the fact that they cast Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, obviously, and then Daniel Radcliffe does this amazing job of playing the straight man for the most part this entire movie. So like we were kind of talking like I there are definitely going to be people who see this film without the context of like Weird Al's actual life who are going to think that some of this stuff is factual. And they're going to get very I mean, some of it you can't ignore is just blatant bad shit like movie bullshit, but it is so crazy. I think the way they play it is great, and just the point that killed it for me, where they just kept like beating the dead horse too, was where, and again, this is spoiler territory. If you haven't seen it, just enjoy the rest of enjoy the previous part of the show. Ended here, but when they got to the point where Weird Al has that revelation, he's like, "No, I need to be taken seriously as a real artist. From here on out, I'm writing only original music." And he writes, "I'm fat," which
Or
is
eat it, right?
or eat it, yes,
Yeah,
eat it, which is the parody he did on Michael Jackson's Beat It. But in this movie, he writes it first, and he becomes extremely enraged when Michael Jackson, his record label calls him, informs him that Michael Jackson, the largest pop star on the planet, aside from Weird Al, who's the largest pop star on the planet in this movie, has decided that he's going to write a parody
that
of
makes
Eat
no
It.
sense.
Yeah, called Beat It. And he just like sticks with it the whole time. He's just like so pissed that Michael Jackson's going to ruin his credibility. Meanwhile, he's dating Madonna for some reason.
Yeah, Madonna's just like there to getting the Yankovic bump.
Yeah, the Yankovic bump. That's right, because everyone got their music sales increased by having Weird Al parody. So she really wants a parody, but even though Weird's done with that, like Al's not going to do it anymore. And then for some reason they end up like taking down Fidel Castro together, which makes no sense either. Uh yeah, it's great. There's like, I don't know, what would you say, 5% truth to this story? Like the music
Oh
that they
yeah.
touch on is it's music that he made, but even the songs in the movie are not remotely in order of when he released them throughout his career.
Oh yeah,
Um
for sure. The I was surprised like the friends that he had
yeah,
at the end they show a picture of what must have been his
his
actual
band.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that part must have been somewhat truthful, but besides that, it kind of after that it goes off the rails in kind of the most glorious way. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole movie, he is the biggest recording star on the planet. I mean, he's constantly getting notified that he's broken the Beatles records for the most Billboard topping things, and you know,
He turns down playing with Queen at Live Aid.
yeah,
It's like fuck
just sounds
you.
lame.
Yeah.
I mean, and well, just Radcliffe is like totally ripped,
Yes.
and he's got his shirt off, or you know, half a lot of the times during the movie. So it's just like the most
But
ideal
but
Weird
the
Al possible.
yeah, like it's not realistic. But here's the part I love about that is like he's movie ripped the whole time. But then there's those scenes where he's trying to open the giant front door to his mansion and he like, can't do it. Like it's his whole body weight like trying to close this door for this tiny little man. It's so fucking funny. Yeah. And then like
I
the whole youth story and just like, you know, he gets in trouble with the law because he snuck out and disobeyed his parents with a hay boy. It's just like a boy made out of hay. And he gets
the way that
busted.
pays off
Yeah, and he
later.
gets
Wow.
busted because he goes to a polka party and everyone's dancing a polka. And he's just like the coolest kid who gets caught because he's got like a fucking accordion strapped to his chest so he can't outrun the cops. But
So I got a weird anecdote about that. They make a reference at that polka party that just knocked me on the floor because there's a couple of girls that are talking about
mm-hmm,
how getting the Whoopi John Will farts is just the most amazing record of the that possible.
yep.
And my dad used to have that record. I distinctly remember the cover of that record. He used to talk about how he used to go to local ballroom dances, ballroom halls or whatever that Whoopi John Wilfarts would play. And I thought he was just a local guy, which he is. And there's a reference after that like, oh yeah, I love that classic Minnesota sound. And it just was like, holy cow, that hit me really hard. That I can't believe I thought that was just a local thing that my dad was into.
That deep cut was like for you and like 5 80 year
Oh,
olds.
I know. Yep.
That's
I'm the
amazing.
only one that watched this movie that would know what that was. I'm pretty sure everybody that would be into that music is not watching this movie. I don't think.
Uh, I like the like complete disregard for like tone that this film has too. Like it'll go from like completely bad shit like happy go lucky to like all of a sudden Weird Al's dad is like murder like bludgeoning to death the salesman at the door. Like for no reason, like no context. It's
Yep.
just so fucked up.
I think that's the very first moment where you're like, okay, this movie might be something's awry.
Right. And that whole
uh,
running joke that they won't let die too about like factories. You always talk about the factory. What do you even make there? And then like throughout the whole film, they keep referencing that. Then when
that
he's
feels
finally
like
in
a
the
UHF
factory,
bit.
yeah, when he's finally in
Yep.
the factory, he asks the guy, and he's like, "Ha ha, your dad said you were funny," and just walks off.
Yeah, it shows him what he's doing. He's just turning a knob and pressing a lever when it turns green or something.
Twirling the little thing. So stupid.
So they have a backyard party
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of 80s celebrities, I would say.
Yes, and caricature types.
Yes.
Yeah,
And oh man,
everybody.
it,
Gallagher, Pee Wee Herman.
it got Divine, Andy Warhol, and
Yep.
Dolly are talking about how much of an amazing artist he is. And the one guy from Queen that's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good cameos from must be his buddies, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
mean, Conan's in there. There's Paul F. Tompkins. There's
Oh,
just a whole bunch of comedians that are
some people from
just kind
Reno
of,
911. Yeah.
yep,
That was like the cameo scene. Like they flew everybody in for one day and they're like, we're going for it.
yep,
And Rainn Wilson playing Dr. Demento is so good.
yep. Yeah, the part where he's like, "I'm ready to adopt you."
Oh, I just made up with my father. Oh, well, that's great. I'm gonna go now. And then like the oh god, like the makeup scene with his father where he's like, I was so hard on you, son, because I never told you this, but I grew up Amish. And then and then on my Rumspringa, and then like it's the whole backstory. And meanwhile, as Annie pointed out when we were talking earlier, his mother's wearing a fat suit, which is where the I'm fat like whole parody thing. So like in this one scene, they just like completely go ham and like circle in like the fat song and like the Amish Paradise thing completely out of context in his career. And it's great.
Yeah, you think, okay, you see the mom in the fat suit, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, "Oh, mom, you," and she's like, "I put on weight," and you think, okay, this is where he's getting the idea for fat, and he just shies away from it. He's
Yeah.
just totally ignores it, and then gets into the Amish Paradise thing,
Yep.
and then in the middle of that, he looks over to his mom again and starts talking about how she's fat again.
Yeah,
And
what'd you say a few
like,
minutes ago? Which is like dead set a scene out of UHF. Like it's the same thing that Stanley Spadowski, or not Stanley Spadowski, but like his character, I forget in that movie, like he does it's almost the same scene. Like he just goes into his own head and like everything just happens and he bounces back to reality at like weird times. Uh and then I mean, did you have more you want to talk about, or should we like touch on the ending, which is
yeah, I think the ending is probably
so I mean, there's the whole scene with Fidel Castro that's amazing, where the level of detail to the gore in that scene is great, but that ending, like this ends in the most unpredictable way possible, where Weird Al wins a Grammy, which I don't think has ever happened, right? Like he's never won a, or maybe
I
he has. I don't
maybe
know.
as yeah.
But basically, the movie ends in 1985. He wins a Grammy, stands
After
up
he
on stage, hands in the air, pisses himself, which nobody mentions. He just like is on stage with piss running down his leg, and then is assassinated by Madonna's hitman, and that's the end of the movie. It's so fucking stupid.
yeah, they're like Yankovic, Al Yankovic died in 1985, but his music lives on.
Yeah, and he had just performed Amish Paradise the scene before, which he did in like 90 fucking 7. So dumb.
And then during the credits, it starts off like, "Oh, these are my real life pictures of me as kids and everything." And
Yep.
then at the end, it just goes off. Just
Yeah.
Reagan is like Ronald Reagan is like you, Jesse.
And he's in the
Him.
jungle with a machine gun, like taking on Castro. It's just so stupid. It's such a great film. Like in every way.
I I really hope he gets another movie deal. Like this between this and UHF
Yeah,
being
he's
a cult classic, I think
two bangers.
he's earned some runway again.
Well, and I think from everything I've heard, or at least from like a lot of the interviews, like I think this one is, and the reviews aren't fantastic, they're positive, but like I think this has got a lot of people like really excited. Like it's done pretty well. So
Yep.
like we can't recommend this one enough. So good. I can't wait to watch it again. I told my wife I immediately need to watch this again because I know I missed a lot of stuff. So
The worst part about this movie is the constant Roku ads telling me what channels I should download from the Roku store.
that's true.
That kind of sucked.
The Blu-ray will fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it comes out for that. I would imagine they would do that.
I'd hope so. I mean, I want a copy of it. I want a special edition with a soundtrack or something.
Roku must have spent a shit ton of money on this because, like,
Oh yeah,
they've just been plastering it on the interface and just being like, this. No, this is a whole section of
yeah. It's the whole
dashboard.
background. It's everything, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they need to make up that ad revenue because they're not selling it. And I suppose there was probably a theatrical release, like limited runs, but
Yeah.
it's not in theaters nationally. So I guess its next launching point will be to be on some sort of physical media. So it'd be cool.
I think I've loved everything Radcliffe has done since Harry Potter. He's always done weird shit.
Yeah,
He's
Horns
never done
was
like
good.
Yep.
Swiss Army Man was good.
Oh, yeah, that one was amazing.
I mean, anybody who like farts into a jet ski is just fucking. I mean, the dude played a whole role where he was a dead body who farted. I mean, that's great.
It's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, he's a very good actor outside of being. And the weird part though is he's like what in his upper 30s at this point. He still looks like 16-year-old Harry Potter to some extent. So
yeah.
Good stuff. Well, I don't know. I suppose we should probably wrap this episode before it goes on too long.
Yeah. So, I want to know if you've watched this movie because you should. and I want to hear what your favorite parody song is. What's yours?
Mine
Yeah, what's
from
yours?
Weird Al.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of like stuck on that. Like, I don't know what the name of it is, but that Anakin Skywalker American Pie.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty good.
That was pretty big, and I liked Star Wars when I was a kid. So
I just recently heard the Biggest Twine in Minnesota song, and that one is pretty amazing too, just because he has a running joke about picking up pickled herring or something the whole time. It's pretty good. I'm gonna say, but I mean, you can't go
well,
wrong with
White
Amish
and
Paradise.
Nerdy. Yeah, White and Nerdy's pretty good too. So
Yep, yep, yep. He is a legend. But yeah, I want to hear what your favorite Weird Al song is, and you can tell us at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com or send us a message on Twitter at Weekend Rental Podcast. And I think that's going to do it for this week. So be kind, rewind.
my Bologna.
My Bologna.
Should we crinkle? Oh damn it! I forgot to work in the episode that Biff texted me that he shit himself.